Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take complex, essential documents and, well, we give you the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed.
And today, we are doing something incredibly personal. This might be one of the most life-changing dives we've ever done.
I think so. We're exploring your own Relationship Readiness Index.
That's right. This is a remarkable document, and it really sets the stage for what is, probably the most important journey anyone takes, finding a life partner.
Absolutely. So just for context, we are focusing on the first 11 pages of your personalized report. It's the Swayam-Yog, the DISC Styles Behavioral Blueprint.
And our mission today is to turn all that data, all those points on the graph, into something you can actually use. Dynamic, actionable self-knowledge.
We want to be your guide through this, helping you pull out the real essence of each section so you can understand what you bring to a future partnership. The good, the bad.
And the brilliant. It's all in there.
Exactly. Now, before we jump in, it's really important to understand the context here.
It is. This assessment is part of a much larger initiative called Swayam-Yog, which is a pre-marriage preparation program.
So this isn't just a personality test.
Not at all. Institutions like IKSC Knowledge Bridge, Swayam-Yog are making these really admirable efforts to help young candidates like you discover themselves first.
I see Dr. Atul B. Patil is mentioned here as conducting these assessments.
Yes, and his work and the work of IKSC really focuses on that journey of self-discovery. There's a philosophy they use that I think is just perfect. It's right there on the report.
Journey within before the journey together.
That's the one. It sums it up completely.
That concept, vetting yourself before you vet a partner, that's the ultimate act of readiness, isn't it? It says that self-awareness is the real foundation for respect.
It is. So let's unpack the language of this report. The whole thing is built on the DISC model.
And this isn't some, pop psychology trend. This has a serious academic background.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about foundational behavioral science. The work actually dates back to Dr. William Marston at Harvard around 1915.
Wow, okay.
And the model has been rigorously, and I mean rigorously, refined over the last 65 years.
Which is why it's so widely used, I imagine.
It's the world's most widely used behavioral assessment for that exact reason. It's durable. It reveals how you think, how you express, how you decide, but without putting a limiting label on you.
It's the how, not the what.
Precisely.
So DISC, it's an acronym for the 4 main behavioral styles. And the report makes it clear that your blueprint, your specific graphs, come from your unique blend of these 4.
That's right. Should we define them quickly?
Let's do it. So first we have D.
D is for dominance.
Yeah.
This measures your assertiveness, your independence when you're dealing with challenges or making decisions.
Then I for influence.
Which reflects your openness, your optimism, and really how you approach social and emotional engagement with others.
Next is S for steadiness.
And steadiness describes how you handle routine, your sense of loyalty, and your need for emotional security and harmony, a sense of peace.
And finally, C.
C is for conscientiousness. This points to your approach to commitments, to responsibility, and your emotional boundaries. It often prioritizes accuracy and, doing things the right way.
So everyone, including you listening, has a unique pattern across these.
And understanding that pattern is step 1 to seeing how you actually show up in a relationship.
Now, before we even get to your scores, page 1 lays out something absolutely critical. It's this idea of 3 concepts, or maybe layers, of your behavior.
This is the key. Honestly, if you miss this part, you kind of miss the whole diagnostic power of the assessment. It's this structure that lets us see the difference between your intention and your actual impact.
Okay, so first up is the private concept. The report calls it the core self.
And that's your internal truth. It's your behavior when you are completely relaxed, totally at ease, or, and this is the paradox, when you're under the most intense stress.
So it's your default setting.
Your ultimate default setting. We'll call it the core self.
Then second, we have the projected concept. The report calls this the protective mask.
The mask, yeah. And this is the effort, either conscious or subconscious, that you make to adapt your behavior to what you think other people expect from you.
Ah, so if you think your partner expects you to be more outgoing, the mask is the version of you that tries to deliver that.
Exactly. We'll call it the mask.
And the third layer is the public concept, or the mirror.
Right. And this is how other people are most likely to perceive the behavior you're putting out there.
Yeah.
It's not just your intention, it's the actual impact and readability of your actions. This is the mirror.
Okay, so let's just be really clear. The purpose of this deep dive isn't to tell you who you are. It's to light up this blueprint so you can build a relationship from a place of emotional clarity.
That's it. It covers everything from how you need affection to your conflict style, right down to specific communication gaps.
Let's move to page 3 then. A foundation for relationship readiness and compatibility awareness. This is where it really solidifies that core purpose.
It does. The assessment makes it very clear that it measures observable human behaviors.
And it uses that phrase I love, your emotional delivery system.
Yes, it's the system you use to express your inner world, your values, your decisions, all of it.
It's such a great way to frame it. When you retreat into silence, that's not just silence, it's the vehicle carrying an underlying emotional need.
And knowing that this model has been used by over 50 million people and refined by IKSC, it just confirms how robust it is for you.
Definitely. So this page summarizes 4 key things the assessment helps you achieve.
It does, and it's all in the context of getting ready for a life partner.
Okay, number 1, understanding the mechanics, how you express affection, handle conflict, and your rhythm for making decisions.
Second, it helps you identify your core emotional tendencies and, this is critical, how you adapt them when you switch roles. From being a friend to being a partner.
That goes right back to the mask.
Directly. Third, you gain insight into what you need for fulfillment, and just as important, what others need from you. It's a two-way street.
And fourth, and this is the big one for preparation, discovering your compatibility strengths and your potential relationship blind spots.
This is all about proactive communication. It's about preventing those reactive fights years from now by understanding the wiring today.
So let's dive a little deeper into the 4 DISC factors, specifically in a relationship context, because that's what this page is all about.
We can start with dominance. D. This is how assertive you are with challenges. A high D person is direct, confident, decisive. They probably prefer to lead.
So they're the ones saying, we're eating here, or here's the plan for the vacation.
Pretty much. And the contrast, which is just as important, is the low D individual. They're cooperative, cautious, and they seek peace. They want that mutual discussion.
So the low D person says, let's look at the options together and make sure we're both comfortable.
Exactly. And you can see immediately how that difference creates a really powerful dynamic in a relationship.
Okay, what about influence?
That's your spectrum of openness and emotional engagement. A high I person brings a lot of social energy. They connect with stories, with humor, with enthusiasm.
Proven steadiness, S.
That's all about loyalty, routine, and emotional security. An S-style person needs stability and harmony. They thrive when the emotional environment is consistent and safe.
And finally, conscientiousness, C.
This is your approach to commitments and responsibilities. A high C individual is going to prioritize accuracy, analysis, and sticking to agreements. They might show care by, say, meticulously planning the family budget.
So page 3 also circles back to those 3 concepts, core self, mask, and mirror, and asks the big question, why does this matter in a marriage?
And the answer is everything. The core self matters because that's where your real emotional needs live. If your partner doesn't get your core self, they're basically loving a stranger.
Or a performance.
Right. And the mask matters because it shows your coping strategies. If you are constantly performing, wearing that mask, you are burning through your emotional energy. It's just not sustainable.
That leads to burnout or resentment down the line.
Inevitably. And the mirror is crucial for your partner. It helps them see if your actions actually line up with your inner self. That alignment, or the lack of it, is where trust is either built or, it erodes.
Okay, so if the first few pages built the house, page 4 is where we start moving in the furniture based on your score. It's called relationship characteristics.
This is the first real glimpse into your personalized results. It starts to describe your natural behavioral style, how you express, relate, and react emotionally.
It really hammers home that idea of behavior being the delivery system.
It does. How you handle challenges, the emotional energy you bring, your response to routine, it's all starting to take shape here.
And the focus on this page is really on the core self, your natural behavior.
Your most instinctive style. This is the real you, the you that operates on autopilot, shaped by your deepest values.
So this is your default operating system. It's who you are when you're just relaxing on the couch with no pressure.
Yes, but it's also who you are when you're deeply stressed and your conscious filters just, they fail.
I think that's such an important point. It's not just your strengths, but your predictable patterns when you're under pressure.
It's your emotional baseline. And if you and your future partner can understand this layer, you can see your core strengths, but you can also spot your relationship triggers before they explode. It's foundational honesty.
Knowing who you are when nobody's watching.
That's it.
Which brings us to page 5, private and public concepts. Authentic presence. This page directly tackles that alignment between your core self and the mask.
Right. Every person has these two versions, and this page shows the dynamic tension between them. There's the you on the inside and the you that you've adapted for the outside world.
And the alignment insight here is so important. When your core self and the mask are close together, the relationship feels easy. It feels authentic.
You're using minimal emotional energy just to be yourself, and that creates safety and trust.
But the report gives a warning sign, and you really need to look for this in your own results. If that gap is wide.
If the gap is wide, it signals immense emotional effort. I call it behavioral debt.
Behavioral debt. I like that. What does that look like in a real marriage?
It's like accruing emotional interest every single day. Let's say you're naturally a quiet, thoughtful, high S or C, but you feel this constant pressure to be a super social, high A extrovert for your partner or their family.
You're performing at every social event.
You're performing. And every performance adds to your debt. That debt shows up as stress, as fatigue, as this unspoken resentment. You're just spending so much energy trying to fit in.
That is heavy. It's like starting a marriage already in the red, emotionally. You know you'll have to pay that debt back eventually, maybe through withdrawal or just snapping one day.
Precisely. Now look, a little bit of adaptation is normal. We all wear masks for certain situations. But when the core self is suppressed for years, the cost is enormous.
So the awareness this page gives you is about empowerment.
It's about reducing that strain. It helps you make relationship decisions based on authenticity, not on pressure. It's a path to becoming more self-aware.
So the goal isn't just to accept yourself, but to find a partner who accepts the real you early on.
So you don't have to wear that exhausting camouflage for the rest of your life.
That flows perfectly into page 6, understanding social behavior, why it matters.
It shifts the focus a bit, connecting your general interaction style to your overall success in relationships.
And what I find fascinating here is the report's emphasis on the feeling. It's not just about what we do, but how we make others feel in our presence.
That is such a subtle but powerful distinction. It's not about checking chores off a list. It's about creating emotional safety. This page explores how you naturally engage, how you speak, how you listen, how you show support.
And it categorizes those 4 instinctive responses, which of course mirror the DISC styles.
You can really see where your emotional energy goes. For you, the listener, does your tendency tend to be to take charge? D. Are you the one setting the agenda in a conversation?
Or do you engage emotionally? Bringing that high energy, using humor and stories to connect.
Or maybe you support patiently,
Yeah.
focusing on listening, keeping the peace, just offering that stable, reliable presence.
Or finally, do you observe analytically? C, holding back, gathering all the information, and maybe being a bit cautious before you share what you're really feeling.
And the impact of that on a partnership is huge.
Mm.
If your natural style is that analytical, reserved high C, you have to realize your partner might not always feel the warmth they need, even if you care deeply.
Because your delivery system is reserved.
Your delivery system is reserved, and so the person on the other end can feel disconnected. And that's the big takeaway here. Understanding this helps you build relationships that are authentic, balanced, and, that crucial phrase again, emotionally safe.
If your partner knows your quietness is analysis, not anger, you've just avoided a massive potential conflict.
A huge one.
Okay, on to page 7, your character. This is where it gets even more descriptive, using metaphors and some really specific lists.
Right. We see the introduction of an animal metaphor. Now, I know this can feel a bit like a horoscope.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's not. The metaphor is a shortcut. It helps put some flesh on the bones of the data. If a lion represents your character, it suggests a certain energy, a certain instinct for dealing with things, especially under pressure.
Direct, decisive, action-oriented.
Exactly. It's a way to think about your internal rhythm.
What's more powerful for me on this page, though, is the dual list of descriptors. It analyzes the split between what you are, your core self, and what you wish to be known for, your public concept, the mirror.
Yes, and you have to compare these across all the categories they give you. Emotions, goal, judges others by fears. The list is incredibly detailed.
Let's pick one. Like fears, say in your core self, your deepest fear is loss of control, which is common for a high D or C. But under your public concept, your goal is to be seen as flexible and easygoing, maybe a high S mask.
That creates so much internal friction. If your core fears a loss of control, but you're projecting flexibility, every time you have to compromise, You're fighting this wave of internal anxiety.
Your actions feel fake to you.
And if your partner knows that your private fear is a loss of control, they can be strategic. They can give you reassurance, give you control in other areas, and help you trust them enough to close that gap between the two versions of yourself.
Or look at judges others by. If your private standard is, say, strict organization, a high C trait, but you want to be known for being spontaneous and fun, a high A, you will constantly be judging others internally for not meeting your unexpressed standards, even while you're trying to act like this carefree person.
And that's the whole point of this page. It's to help you and your future partner close that gap between your internal intention and your external behavior. It's like giving them a decoder ring for your actions.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a perfect bridge into page 8, which is your style.
Now we're getting even more practical, looking at work approaches, daily routines, still with that dual structure of core style versus public concept.
And the categories here include things like work style characteristics. Now, why is work style so important in a relationship report?
Because how you handle tasks, authority, and deadlines at work is almost always a mirror for how you'll handle domestic chores, family finances, and parenting dynamics at home.
Your needs in the office often become your needs in the living room.
Exactly. If your core style at work requires quiet solitude and deep analysis, that high C focus, but your partner expects you to make spontaneous collaborative decisions about redecorating the house.
You have an immediate point of friction.
And it's a behavioral friction, not an emotional one. The fight is over the process, not about a lack of love.
This page also lists your primary strengths and your ideal job culture. And I think this is so critical for you, the listener, because the team at IKSC clearly recognizes that if your professional life is a constant source of stress,
that tension will bleed into the relationship. A fulfilled, happy person makes a much better partner.
It also gets to the core of personal growth with sections like needs for increased effectiveness and wants for long-term motivation.
These are basically personalized instruction manuals for how a partner can best support you. What do you need to thrive? What kind of validation actually works for you?
And crucially, page 8 gives you 2 super actionable lists, communication dose for others and continuous improvement homework. This is direct advice for your partner on how to talk to you and direct homework for you to work on. It's a roadmap for reducing conflict.
An incredibly powerful and concise roadmap.
All right, page 9, overall characteristics and career perspectives. This page really connects your behavioral profile to the big picture of your life.
It does. It starts with a 3-point summary of your overall characteristics, which is a great way to anchor everything we've learned so far, and then it moves into that career lens.
Right, with suggested study streams, career paths, ideal job roles. Again, this might seem a little off topic for marriage prep.
But it's not. It's about sustainable fulfillment. If your partner understands your natural professional strengths, they can be your biggest cheerleader. That support reduces so much external stress on the marriage itself.
If you're fighting your own nature at work all day, you come home totally depleted.
We bring home an empty tank.
And then we get to what I think is the absolute core of this whole section, what you bring to a relationship, strengths and style tendencies.
This is where it gets deep. The focus here is on the critical difference between your wants, which are your motivators, and your needs, which are your core emotional requirements.
Explain that difference. It's so important.
Okay, think of it this way. A need is like the type of battery your brain requires to function. Maybe it's a deep cycle rechargeable battery that needs quiet time to power up. A want is the color of the phone case you'd prefer.
So one is essential, the other is a preference.
Exactly. If your need for that quiet recharging time isn't met, the whole system shuts down. It doesn't matter what color the case is, the machine won't work.
Let's use the report's example. One person craves solitude. That's a deep need for an introvert, a high C or S profile. The other craves constant conversation. That might be a high I want.
Right. And a good partnership knows the difference. If that high C partner doesn't get their solitude need met, they don't just feel disappointed, they become emotionally exhausted. They might withdraw completely. The impact is catastrophic.
Whereas the high I partner who doesn't get their conversation want met might feel a bit slighted, but it's not destructive.
It's disappointing, not devastating. And confusing a want for a need is a recipe for a disaster in a relationship.
The final lists on this page really drive this home, with 7 points each for strengths he brings to the job and ideal work environment.
And here's the takeaway that people often miss. Your ideal work environment, whether it's structured, collaborative, high energy, or solitary. That environment almost perfectly mirrors the kind of emotional environment you need to thrive in a marriage.
So if your job requires autonomy and quick decisions, you're going to feel suffocated by a partner who needs a committee meeting to decide what's for dinner.
And when those environmental needs are met, you can bring your best self to the relationship. There's just so much less strain on your core self.
Which brings us to page 10. Communication tactics for others to use with you, the heart of understanding. And I have to say, this might be the most valuable page in the entire report.
I completely agree. It is, without a doubt, the most valuable relational roadmap you will get.
It starts with that amazing statement. Every strong relationship begins with one simple truth. We all speak different emotional languages.
And if you don't know your partner's language, you can shout, "I love you," all day long, and all they'll hear is noise.
This section helps you articulate your specific dialect. Do you communicate through stories and warmth, like a high I?
Or do you show care through quiet supportive action, like a high S? Do you need clarity in data, like a high C? Or quick decisive action, like a high D?
Communication is the bridge that turns two people into one team. This section is about moving from feeling misunderstood to feeling seen, heard, and supported.
And the goal isn't to change who you are. It's about giving the important people in your life, especially your partner, the instruction manual on how to love you better.
Let's really drill down into the practical side of this, the 7 points for do's communication tips and the 7 for don'ts.
Let's do it. Let's take a high D individual. If that's you, your do's list is probably going to say things like, be brief, be direct, focus on the solution, and don't waste time with a lot of chit-chat.
And the don'ts for that high D would be, don't stall, don't be vague, and don't challenge their authority without bringing some serious facts to back it up.
A partner who ignores that will just seem disrespectful or inefficient to the high D. Now, contrast that with a high S.
Totally different.
Completely. Their do's will say, give them time to think, create a calm environment, offer personal assurances, use a supportive tone.
And the high S don'ts would be a minefield. Don't demand an immediate answer, don't criticize their loved ones, and absolutely do not introduce huge, sudden changes that threaten their stability.
If a partner casually brings up moving across the country, the high S will likely just shut down completely. It feels like a physical threat.
Okay, what about the high C?
If you're talking to a high C, the do's are clear. Be accurate, provide data, focus on logic over emotion, and be very clear about the standards.
And the don'ts would be, don't use vague emotional language, don't make broad statements without evidence, and don't be disorganized in how you present your case.
If you try to convince a high C with just warmth and stories, they'll just hear fluff. They'll assume your argument is weak because it lacks data, and they'll miss the emotional point entirely.
These rules are just so vital. They let you bypass these frustrating cycles of miscommunication. It's the difference between a successful conversation and a totally unnecessary fight.
You learn to communicate smarter, not just louder.
And that takes us to our final page for this deep dive. Page 11. Stressors, perceptions, and tactics for working more effectively with others.
This page is so important because it acknowledges that stress is going to happen. It's inevitable. But it's your response to that stress that builds or breaks trust in a relationship.
It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about managing it with self-awareness. And it starts by defining 4 different dimensions of conflict.
This gives you a great framework for troubleshooting tension. First, you have intrapersonal conflict. That's me versus me.
So an internal struggle, like feeling guilty for being assertive when you really value harmony.
Exactly. Your core self clashing with the mask. Then there's interpersonal conflict, which is me versus you. That's the classic relationship disagreement.
Then personal functionals conflict, or me versus the job.
Right. This happens when your skills don't match what's required. In a marriage, this could be feeling totally overwhelmed by managing the family finances or a specific chore.
And finally, personal organizational conflict. Me versus the company or the system.
In a relationship, this is when your personal values clash with the household's established rules or norms. Maybe you value saving money, but your extended family's norm is lavish gift-giving. The conflict isn't with your partner, it's between your values and the system.
What's most valuable here, though, is the personalized feedback based on your score. It breaks down your likely behavior under pressure.
Yes, look at these sections. First, your typical behaviors in conflict. These are your autopilot responses when you're overwhelmed.
Then, and this is so important for a partner to know, under stress, you may appear, this is how you might be perceived. A stressed high D might appear aggressive when they're just trying to create order.
Or a stressed high C might appear cold and uncaring when really they've just retreated to analyze the problem.
But the antidote is right there below it. Under stress, you need, this is the key. If you appear cold, what you might actually need is space and data. If you appear aggressive, you might need a clear boundary.
Articulating that need to your partner is half the battle won.
And finally, it gives you a list of triggers. Watch out. These cause conflict. Specific actions that set you off.
If your trigger is feeling rushed or ambushed, your partner needs to learn to give you a heads up before a big conversation.
So the conclusion of this whole first section is that understanding your stress patterns helps you manage your own reactions and work with others, especially your future spouse, even when things are tough.
It's the difference between just surviving conflict and actually using it to grow closer.
So that's our deep dive. We have gone through pages 1 to 11, from the DISC Models Foundation through the core self versus the mask, all the way to a personalized map for communication and conflict.
It's an incredible amount of self-knowledge packed into just a few pages. We've seen the value of understanding the framework, that idea of behavioral debt, and how to use this roadmap.
And it's worth saying again, this report and the whole mission of IKSC Knowledge Bridge. Swayam Yoga is about giving you the tools for self-discovery before you make that lifelong commitment.
It's a guide for you to understand yourself and then to be able to articulate your deepest needs to a potential partner.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to take away. We've covered your profile in detail, but this report goes further. If you look at the table of contents, you'll see sections on partners' expectations and the benchmark for compatibility on pages 34 to 36.
Which raises a very powerful question. Now that you know your core needs, your triggers, your communication style, how might your ideal partner's DISC profile align with that or contrast with it?
Would a partner who is different challenge you to grow, or would one who is similar provide that stability you need?
And ultimately, looking back at everything we discussed, which gap will you commit to working on before that journey together begins? Is it the gap between your private and projected self on page 5?
Or is it the balance between your wants and your needs on page 9? That proactive work right there is the true measure of your relationship readiness. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, our mission is, well, it's intensely personal and I think profoundly practical. We are going to try and take some of the guesswork out of preparing for really one of the biggest commitments of your life.
We're decoding the Relationship Readiness Index.
Specifically, we're going to be your guide through the architecture of self-understanding that you'll find in pages 12 to 26 of the Swayam Yoga Assessment Report.
Right, and this is a really powerful tool developed by IKSC Knowledge Bridge. So if you actually have this report in your hands, or you're just considering a readiness assessment.
And this deep dive is basically your user manual.
Exactly, your manual for extraction.
Okay, let's unpack that, because this isn't just another general personality test you find online. The context here is absolutely crucial.
It is. Pre-marriage preparation.
And the goal is to move beyond that sort of superficial compatibility. We both like hiking, and really understand the underlying mechanics of your relational dynamics.
How you behave, how you communicate, and I think most importantly,
how you handle pressure.
Exactly. How you handle pressure and conflict when you're in it for the long term with a partner.
That underlying goal, it really defines the entire assessment, doesn't it?
It does. And we should acknowledge the extensive efforts IKSC Knowledge Bridge, Swayam Yoga, is making here. They're helping young candidates like you transition into successful, really self-aware relationships.
So their mission is to provide a guide.
A guide for self-discovery. The whole point is to ensure you have emotional alignment and, a partnership that's built to last.
And central to this whole personalized map is the work being done by Dr. Atul B. Patil. He's the one who actually conducts these specialized assessments.
He is. He's taking what is very complex behavioral science and applying it directly to, what could be more important, finding and keeping a compatible life partner.
So the language, the framework used in this report, it's the DISC framework.
Yes. Dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. For the next 30 or 40 minutes, we're going to walk you through how these 4 factors, the D, I, S, and C, are analyzed across 3 different layers of your life.
3 layers. So natural, adapted, and public.
Right. And then we'll see how they dictate your growth areas.
Yeah.
And crucially, where they predict friction will inevitably, show up with a partner.
Okay, so our journey starts with self-description. That's on page 12. Then it moves pretty quickly into the energy required for conformity.
And then guides you through what I think is a revolutionary concept on page 16, the Platinum Rule.
And it all culminates in this really detailed 6-part roadmap for conflict resolution on pages 21 through 26.
The whole structure is designed so that by the end of this, you won't just know your score.
No, you'll have a tactical strategy for building a resilient partnership. All right, let's start at the beginning. Page 12.
Page 12.
Yeah.
This introduces the first and I'd say most crucial layer of your identity. It's labeled behavioral descriptors, your natural style.
Your natural style. So this is the core self, the unedited you.
The default operating system. That's a great way to put it.
I often hear people call this the true self, but in this context, in a relational assessment, the critical difference seems to be when this self actually shows up.
Exactly. And that is the first essential takeaway so many people just gloss over. So yes, this profile describes how you naturally approach problems, which is your D.
People, your I.
Activity level, your S. And structural requirements, your C. But, and this is the most crucial part, it's the behavior you exhibit when you are under stress.
So this is your instinctive default mechanism.
It's what happens when external demands or internal pressures push you past your comfortable threshold. This is your partner is going to meet during a crisis.
Wow. That is a fascinating, almost high-stakes way to define the natural style. So when you're looking at the shaded adjectives in the report and they run on an intensity scale from 1 to 7, you're not just seeing neutral traits.
Not at all. You are seeing the intensity of your stress reaction.
So a high score on a D adjective, like, say, argumentative, isn't just about enjoying a debate.
No. It's about demanding control when you're feeling vulnerable.
That makes so much sense.
And we really need to spend some time unpacking these 4 factors because they are the components of your relational DNA. The report frames each one around 3 essential elements.
Needs, emotion, and fears.
Precisely.
Let's start with dominance, then, the D. It focuses on how you manage problems and tasks.
Right. So the high D person's fundamental needs are things like challenges, authority, freedom from control.
And they're defining emotion. They're decisive. They're genuine risk takers.
But here's the vulnerability. Their deepest fear is being taken advantage of, or that catastrophic loss of control.
And that fear is everything.
It's paramount. The high D person, when they're stressed, what do? They default to control. It's a defense mechanism. The report's high D adjectives, words like argumentative, demanding, self-willed, they all reflect this reactive need to push back against what they perceive as weakness.
And on the other end, the low D profile.
Well, with adjectives like conservative, contemplative, or modest, that indicates a preference for caution, for inclusion, over direct confrontation.
So the insight here is if you plot high on D, your partner has to learn to navigate that desire for autonomy you have.
And your reaction to perceived challenges. It's a dance.
Okay, let's move to influence, or I. This one is focused on people.
Yes. Their core needs are all about social relationships, friendly environments, public recognition.
The dominant emotion is this relentless optimism, a very trusting nature.
But the foundational fear,
Being rejected.
being socially rejected, being left out, or losing that social approval, it's terrifying for them.
This is a style that's just driven by connection and emotional energy.
Absolutely. The high I adjectives, emotional, enthusiastic, gregarious, they all reflect that outward focus. But when an I style is stressed, they can become, say, impulsive or scattered.
Why is that?
Because they become so focused on restoring social harmony. Sometimes they do it at the expense of necessary structure or details.
And the low I styles, described as quiet, pensive, reticent.
They value reflection and internal processing much more than that external validation.
So for the I style, compatibility really hinges on a partner who validates their energy.
And makes them feel seen and accepted. It's non-negotiable.
Next up is steadiness, S. This addresses pace and environment.
The stabilizers. Their core needs are stable environments, reliable systems, cohesive teams. They are the glue in any dynamic.
Their prevailing emotion is patience, reliability,
And their key fear.
sudden chaotic change.
Exactly. Or the loss of stability and that feeling of emotional security.
The S style is really the heart of the relationship, isn't it? Prioritizing comfort and, well, duration.
It is. High S styles are described as calming, loyal, and patient. But the weakness in that strength is a resistance to necessary movement.
So when they get pushed too far.
They default to avoidance.
And the low S descriptions, things like fidgety, impetuous, or fault-finding.
Those often describe people who thrive on dynamism. They actively seek out variety, which you can imagine can be a huge source of tension if they're partnered with a high S.
Oh, absolutely. A real clash of energies. Okay, finally, we have conscientiousness, C. This is about procedures and structural requirements.
Right. They fundamentally need clarity. They need rules to follow, data to analyze.
Their dominant emotion is cautiousness, meticulous decision-making.
And their primary fear is being criticized or the loss of accuracy and quality control.
This is where we get to a crucial insight, I think, connecting back to that fear of criticism.
Yes. The high C's need for accuracy is a defense mechanism. They are not just seeking perfection for its own sake.
They're terrified.
They're terrified of the vulnerability that comes with making an error.
Yeah.
That fear is why criticism feels like such a personal attack.
So the high C styles are described as accurate, exacting, and fact-finders.
And when stressed, they can become hypercritical. Or they fall into that classic analysis paralysis.
What about the low C descriptions? Rebellious, sarcastic?
Or fearful of constraints. These are people who value independence and, expediency over a strict adherence to procedure.
So to summarize, page 12 gives you the baseline. It's who you are when your guard is down and your instincts are running the show.
Precisely.
So once you've really absorbed your natural style, we flip to page 13, the adapted style.
Right. And this is all about how you modify those natural instincts.
To meet the perceived demands of a specific environment.
Exactly. The adapted style is often called the professional self, or, the persona you project to fit in.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say you are naturally low D. You're pretty unobtrusive.
Okay.
But your workplace, it demands that you be highly assertive and decisive. So you have to project a high D adapted style. This section measures that modification.
And the core takeaway here is deeply, deeply relevant for marriage longevity.
It is. You have to compare page 12, your natural style, with page 13, your adapted style.
And look for the gap.
Look for the gap. The greater the visual gap between those two profiles, the more personal energy you are constantly expending just to conform or adjust.
That gap, it's like an emotional debt you're paying every single day.
That is a perfect way to describe it. And that huge energy expenditure, it's not sustainable. Not over the course of a long-term relationship.
Because if you spend 8 hours a day fighting your true behavioral tendencies.
Let's say forcing yourself to be high I, really extroverted, when you're naturally high C, introverted and focused.
You come home completely depleted.
Completely. And when that depletion hits, the adaptive style just collapses.
Yeah.
Instantly.
This is exactly why arguments can start over these tiny, seemingly trivial things like the toothpaste cap being left off.
Right. The real issue is never the cap.
It's the unaddressed energy deficit you've been carrying all day from conforming to a world that doesn't align with your natural style.
So understanding this gap is absolutely vital for ensuring long-term emotional honesty with your partner.
Then page 14 completes this triad with your public style.
Right. This reflects the general behavioral intensity you project when you're interacting with others.
Particularly in new or professional settings.
Exactly. It's the immediate initial impression you make.
So, let me see if I have this right. The adapted style shows how I modify myself for my job, specifically.
Yes.
But the public style is more like the initial handshake. It's the persona I consciously curate for the world at large.
You've got it. And the report is really urging you to connect the dots across all three.
Because the ultimate measure of relational health and low internal friction is the alignment between them.
The alignment between the natural, adapted, and public styles.
Yes.
Because if these three are in constant conflict, if your true self on page 12 is always fighting your work self on page 13 and your social self on page 14,
you're just heading for emotional burnout.
Burnout and communication breakdown. And that will erode the trust that's so necessary for a resilient marriage.
I see. So understanding that gap isn't just some mental exercise. It's a real measure of your future emotional fatigue.
The more energy you spend acting.
The less energy you have for actually nurturing the relationship.
Which brings us to page 15, where the report really shifts from description to actionable insight.
Right. The title says it all. Understanding what you bring to a relationship and unlocking growth. This signals a deeper, more intentional level of self-reflection.
This is where the report introduces what it calls the tightrope metaphor.
The tightrope metaphor, explain that.
Well, many candidates, and this includes you, are successfully balancing this significant career ambition.
The external drive, often fueled by D or C traits.
With a deep internal longing for companionship and stability, which are often S or I needs.
That tightrope metaphor really hits home. We all know someone, or maybe it's us, who is achieving incredible things professionally, high D or high C, but they come home and they feel absolutely hollow.
Because they haven't adequately met their internal need for connection or calm or shared experience, the S&I needs.
So harmony, as the report clarifies, requires introspection into what truly sustains you emotionally.
The core idea here is that your specific personality, your unique blend of the DISC factors, is the mechanism.
The mechanism through which you express love, seek connection.
And, most frequently, resolve conflict. If you don't understand that mechanism, you simply can't optimize it.
So the report guides you through several key introspection goals. It helps you recognize your natural relational strengths.
And identify your internal motivators, your wants. These dictate where you focus your attention day to day.
But the most crucial part seems to be identifying your core emotional needs.
Yes, the behaviors or environments that actually replenish your energy reserve.
This goes beyond just simple preference then.
It does. Let's say you're a high D. You might want to tackle every challenge aggressively.
Right.
But if your underlying need is actually for intellectual stimulation, which is more of a high C aspect, then failing to meet that intellectual need guarantees internal depletion. It doesn't matter how many tasks you conquer.
So this page is all about aligning your personal values, your goals, and your relationship expectations. It's about preparing for a deeper emotional compatibility that's rooted in self-knowledge.
Exactly.
Now, the most challenging concept on page 15 is introduced in the section Unlocking Growth, from awareness to advantage. This seems to fundamentally redefine what personal weakness is.
It does. This is the central pivot point for growth. The idea is that a strength, when it's used in the wrong context or, taken to an extreme,
It becomes a weakness, a relational barrier.
right. And this is critical because most of us assume our strongest traits are always positive.
Okay, let's use some clear examples here. Say I have high analytical strength, a strong C trait.
Okay. That allows you to solve complex problems. It's a huge asset.
But if I use that same strength to analyze my partner's emotional response instead of just, validating it,
Then your analytical nature transforms into emotional distance or coldness.
my strength has become a relational barrier.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Or consider the high S person. Their strength is being highly accommodating, prioritizing harmony.
Right, the peacemaker.
But if they accommodate every single small conflict just to avoid friction, that avoidance builds up this long-term, festering resentment.
And then it explodes later.
It always does. Their strength in promoting peace has resulted in a war that's fought internally, leading to eventual blow-ups. The growth objectives here target those blind spots.
So the goal then, it isn't to erase your style, it's to regulate its intensity.
Regulate the intensity. It could mean balancing your need for control if you're a high D, or your level of sensitivity if you're a high S, or your reliance on structure if you're high C.
And the final, I think, really powerful message here is that growth isn't about becoming someone else.
No, it's about becoming your best self.
The version of you that can handle pressure, engage in conflict constructively,
and maintain emotional honesty without collapsing back into those defensive stress behaviors.
Pages 16 and 17 shift us completely into tactical application. We're moving from just knowing yourself to using that knowledge to improve communication with others.
Especially a future spouse.
It's the difference between knowing the blueprint and knowing how to build the house.
A great analogy. The section Know Yourself, Know Your Associates, 3 Steps to Improve Relationships is the operational framework.
Step 1. Understand your own behavioral style.
Step 2. Recognize the style of others. Simple enough.
But Step 3. Step 3 contains the core wisdom of this entire assessment, the platinum rule. We're all drilled in the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated.
But the platinum rule demands a profound shift.
Communicate with others the way they want to be communicated with.
That distinction requires tremendous empathy and conscious effort.
It forces you to temporarily suspend your own preference for speed or detail or warmth and adopt a communication style that's optimized for the receiver. But that sounds great in theory. If I'm a high D and I naturally prefer speed and blunt efficiency, how am I supposed to suddenly decrease directness with my high C partner without sounding, fake?
Manipulative or just incredibly slow?
Yes.
That is the essential challenge. And page 16 addresses it by defining adaptability. It's a conscious choice. It is not a personality change.
It's the willingness to adjust your approach.
Based on the relationship's current needs. And the report stresses that adaptability does not mean mimicking. It means temporarily adjusting your inherent style.
To be more or less direct.
And more or less open when you're delivering your communications.
So the objective of this adjustment isn't flattery, it's about productivity and emotional safety.
You're just adjusting the channel so the other person can hear and receive your input without immediately defaulting to a street reaction.
So to successfully apply this platinum rule, we need a quick way to diagnose people.
A rapid diagnostic tool. The report simplifies recognizing other styles using what it calls the 2 power questions.
And these form the foundation of the DISC diamond we see in the report.
They do. These are the behavioral flags you need to look for immediately when you're interacting with someone, especially when conflict might be brewing.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first predictor is, are they direct or indirect in their communications?
Okay, direct versus indirect. What does that look like?
Direct people move quickly, they talk firmly, they state their opinions very clearly. That's your D and your I styles.
And indirect?
Indirect people are more diplomatic, they ask questions, they often delay action. That's your S and C styles.
Got it. And the second predictor?
Are they guarded or open in their communications?
Guarded versus open?
Guarded people focus on facts, they limit personal emotions, they prefer data. That's your D and C.
And open people focus on feelings, they share stories.
They prefer relational connection. That's your I and S.
So when you combine these 2 predictors, the map becomes really clear.
It does. D styles are direct and guarded. They prioritize results over feelings.
I styles are direct and open, prioritizing relationships and enthusiasm.
S styles are indirect and open. They prioritize harmony and support.
And finally, C styles are indirect and guarded, prioritizing accuracy and process.
Understanding those 4 combinations is your strategy map for adapting your style.
Which brings us to page 17, which gives us the tactical blueprint, the specific adjustments required. Let's get into the how-tos.
Okay, let's take directness first. If you're communicating with a D or an I style, you generally need to increase directness.
So, cut to the chase.
Cut the preamble. Don't start with small talk if they're a D or with excessive story details if they're an I. Get to the point quickly.
Focus on goals, tasks, results.
And use assertive but clear language. You have to maintain a faster pace to match their energy.
The key here is really respecting their time and their attention span. If you fail to increase directness with a high D, you will lose them before you even finish your first sentence.
You will. Conversely, if you're communicating with an S or a C style, you need to decrease directness.
This feels essential in a relationship.
It is. If you're a high D partner delivering some bad news to your high S partner, you have to slow down your delivery. Speak calmly. Emphasize collaboration.
So instead of, here's the new plan, let's go,
You use softer, open-ended questions. How do you feel about this potential change? Avoid that pushy or aggressive language. Focus on we and us instead of you.
Okay, now for openness. To connect with the relationship-focused I or S styles, you need to increase openness.
This means leading with warmth. Ask about their day, their people, their feelings. Share a personal anecdote.
It validates their need for emotional connection.
And it establishes trust before you address the necessary task or problem. A high C person needs to understand that sharing one small personal detail is a necessary investment in relational capital with an I or S partner.
And finally, to communicate effectively with the task-focused D or C styles.
You must decrease openness. This means respecting boundaries.
So if a high C is focused on a task, don't interrupt them with a long story about your coworker's weekend.
Please don't. Stick strictly to facts and logic. Provide structured bullet points, written summaries, clear agendas. Minimize the emotional content.
Because for a D or a C, efficiency and accuracy are expressions of respect.
And excessive warmth is often just interpreted as distracting or unnecessary fluff.
That is the platinum rule in action. You're temporarily adjusting your default settings to make sure the receiver actually processes your message.
Fostering real communication, not just projection.
Now we move to pages 18, 19, and 20. This section offers a detailed summary of the 4 styles, linking their inherent needs to customized communication strategies.
It synthesizes everything we've learned so far.
Page 18 provides a fantastic comparative overview. Let's look at the essential dimensions and what they reveal about a partner.
Okay, the comparison on pace shows that D, which is fast decisive, and I, which is fast spontaneous, they both drive action.
While S, slower relaxed, and C, slower systematic, they drive deliberation.
So if you pair a D and an S, you can see that the tension over tempo is going to be continuous.
The insight into priority is also critical for understanding where conflict will focus. D prioritizes the goal.
I prioritizes people.
S prioritizes the relationship.
And C prioritizes the task. So if a D and an I are arguing, the D wants the conversation to yield a result.
But the I just wants the conversation to restore harmony. They're solving different problems.
Exactly. And how they gain security reveals their hidden requirements. D needs control, I needs others' approval, S needs friendship.
And C needs thoroughness. If you threaten a C's thoroughness, you are threatening their sense of security.
It's a direct attack.
And finally, their necessary growth areas remind us where their strengths can buckle. D struggles with being impatient.
I struggles with low follow-through, S with oversensitivity.
And C with perfectionism and being overly critical.
These are the areas where you, the candidate, really have to focus your personal development.
Let's apply this strategically, starting with the two fast-paced, assertive styles on page 19.
Okay. Dominant styles, direct and guarded, the drivers. They're concerned with results, autonomy, and logical thinking.
They hate micromanagement and inefficiency.
They do. So if you're partnered with a D style, your strategy has to respect their need for results. Show them how your plan helps them win or achieve their goal faster.
Emphasize logical reasoning.
And provide concise, relevant data. No fluff. A key relational strategy is to agree on goals and boundaries and then step back and allow them freedom.
And compliment them specifically on accomplishments and efficiency.
Yes. If you offered a solution, frame it as a challenge they can conquer.
Let's do a quick scenario. A D-style partner comes home late, needs to discuss a big financial decision.
They do not want to discuss their feelings about the day.
No, they want bullet points. So you should start by saying, I've streamlined the budget options to 2 choices. Option A achieves the goal in 18 months. Option B is more complex, but saves us 5%.
Perfect. You address their need for results and control first.
Okay, now for the influencing styles. Direct and open. The socializers.
They're concerned with approval, enthusiasm, emotional connection. They think emotionally and require constant involvement and positive social contact.
So to communicate effectively with an I style, you have to show admiration and respect for their energy.
Behave optimistically. They respond very poorly to negativity or pessimism. You have to support their feelings, even if you don't agree with their logic.
And critically, avoid involved detail.
Yes. Focus on the vision, the excitement, the big picture.
The I style needs personal validation.
They do. Compliment them personally and often on their creativity, their enthusiasm, their impact on others. But the report warns, keep it real.
Right.
If they're struggling with organizational tasks, offer to help them make the process fun or partner with them on it, rather than imposing some sterile system, which they will always resist.
So if your high I partner proposes a chaotic weekend trip,
Focus on the joy of the experience, not the logistical headache, at least until they're emotionally engaged.
page 20 details the strategies for the 2 slower, more deliberate styles, S and C.
Right. These individuals require patience and structure.
Starting with the steady styles, indirect and open. The peacekeepers.
They're concerned with stability, they seek reassurances, and they fundamentally avoid conflict or risk. They value systems and teamwork.
So if you need your S-style partner to accept a change, you have to show them how your idea minimizes risk and preserves stability.
They need proof. So you have to provide supporting data, not just your enthusiasm. They also need sequence.
So you must provide an outline or step-by-step instructions so they feel prepared.
And your approach must be non-aggressive. Focus heavily on common interests, shared values.
Compliment them on their consistent follow-through, their loyalty, their patience.
And to encourage them to voice disagreement, you have to create a safe, non-confrontational space. Ask something like, before we proceed, is there anything that feels unbalanced or unsafe about this plan?
That's good. Okay, finally, the conscientious styles, indirect and guarded. The analysts.
They're concerned with standards, they need to know the process, and they need to be right. They're naturally cautious, and they thrive on detailed preparation.
So when communicating with a C-style partner, your approach has to be indirect and non-threatening.
Since they seek data and accuracy, give it to them in writing. Always provide thorough explanations and rationale for every decision.
And you have to allow them time.
Time to think, to inquire, to check before they commit. Rushing a C-style leads to immediate withdrawal and passive resistance.
So the core relational strategy here is respecting their process.
It is. Compliment them specifically on their thoroughness, their correctness, their attention to detail.
And if you need them to deviate from procedure,
You have to provide a logical, fact-based reason why that deviation is necessary for quality control. They need to feel involved in the quality assessment, not just told what to do.
We now arrive at what I think is the most critical section for pre-marriage preparation.
Pages 21 through 26. This is the roadmap for conflict.
It's not enough to know your style. You have to know the inevitable friction points that arise when two styles combine.
This is where we move past description and into prescriptive action. And these tensions are natural. They happen because the core needs and fears of the styles clash.
Creating 6 primary areas of friction.
And the resolution is found not in eliminating the conflict, but in predictable mutual adaptation.
All right, first up, natural tensions between D and S styles on page 21.
The D and S tension is a fundamental clash. It's a clash of speed and temperament.
D drives for urgent results. S seeks calm and consistency.
The point of tension revolves around the decision-making pace. Imagine planning a major purchase, like buying a home.
Okay.
The D pushes for quick action, finds a place, wants to sign the lease tomorrow. They see the S as slow, overly cautious.
Meanwhile, the S needs months to reflect, research the area, gain reassurances. They see the D as aggressive and reckless.
Their focus creates friction too. D is task-oriented and can ignore emotional consequences in pursuit of the goal.
And S is people-oriented and will avoid making any difficult decision just to keep the emotional peace.
And when stress hits, the stress reaction is explosive opposition.
The D confronts, controls, may even bulldoze the discussion, feeling frustrated by inaction.
And the S, feeling forced, withdraws completely. Or they over-accommodate in the moment, building a resentment that explodes later.
The insight and resolution demands substantial effort from both sides.
The D must consciously slow down. They need to invite their S partner's input by asking relationship-focused questions and validate their need for security.
And the S, conversely, must develop direct communication. They need to speak up about their fears and needs even when they're unsure.
They need to recognize that calm honesty builds more respect than passive agreement.
So D needs to value stability.
And S needs to value necessary momentum.
Next, page 22. Natural tensions between I and C styles.
This is the classic clash. It's emotion versus structure, spontaneity versus fact.
I thrives on chaos and ideation.
And C values precision and process.
The point of tension is the environment they create.
Yes. The I rushes in with 10 new ideas for the weekend, often half-baked. They see the C as limiting or overly critical of fun.
And the C slows everything down, needing to meticulously analyze the logistics of even a simple dinner party. They feel overwhelmed by the I's lack of structure and commitment to detail.
Communication really highlights the problem. The I is narrative-driven, sometimes verbose or distracted. They prioritize how the story feels.
And the C is reserved and fact-based, sometimes sounding critical or disengaged because they're mentally correcting the I's facts.
In a relationship, this leads to the I feeling constantly judged for their ideas.
And the C feeling forced to manage the chaos.
The path to resolution requires the I to respect the C's need for discipline and preparation.
So be more concise and specific when presenting ideas. Give the C a structured takeaway.
Exactly. And the C, in turn, should allow for flexibility for ideation.
Yeah.
And they must actively use warmth and affirm the I's positive intent.
So instead of just criticizing the flaws in the plan,
The C should say something like, that sounds like a wonderful experience. To make sure it goes smoothly, let me just sketch out the 4 steps we need to confirm.
now for the natural tensions between I and S styles on page 23. This tension is subtle.
It is, because both I and S are highly people-focused.
Yeah.
But they seek fulfillment in very different ways.
I seeks external excitement and recognition.
While S seeks internal security and calm.
The point of tension is the social dial.
The social dial, I like that. The
Yeah.
I is fast-paced and impulsive, always pushing for social engagement, instant bonding.
And S is measured and slow-paced, preferring quiet nights and gradual emotional security.
So the I feels bored by routine, and the S feels overwhelmed and drained by overstimulation.
If they're working well together, they balance the social calendar.
But under stress, the I seeks approval and becomes over-emotional or distracted by external validation.
And the S style quietly withdraws, avoids confrontation until they're completely burnt out.
So the I feels ignored, and the S feels emotionally invaded.
The insight resolution demands the I consciously slow down, give their S partner space, and practice active listening to subtle emotional cues.
Recognizing the S's need to process internally.
Yeah. And the S needs to affirm the I's need for fun while expressing personal needs more directly.
The S has to step slightly out of their comfort zone in social settings.
But the I must equally step slightly into the S's comfort zone of quiet, reliable ritual.
The goal is to avoid the S partner's quiet withdrawal turning into long-term resentment.
Page 24 brings us to the natural tensions between S and C styles.
The silent clash. I call it this because both styles are reserved and cautious.
S seeks emotional harmony above all else. C seeks structural accuracy.
The point of tension is resistance to movement. They both delay action, but for different reasons.
The S delays to avoid emotional stress and discomfort.
And the C delays to prevent errors and maintain high standards.
So the S may see the C as overly inflexible and critical of people.
And the C may see the S as passive or prioritizing feelings over competence.
In a relationship discussion, the S is gentle and diplomatic. They often soften necessary tough feedback until it's ineffective.
And the C is formal and factual, sometimes offering feedback too bluntly because they assume everyone prioritizes data over feelings.
The resolution requires the S to address conflict directly and speak with more firmness.
They have to accept that some conflict is necessary for growth, and they need to embrace necessary detail to reassure the C.
And the C must prioritize empathy when offering critique. They need to factor in the emotional dynamics when addressing problems.
And both need to avoid that simultaneous retreat under pressure, which leads to unresolved problems just lingering indefinitely.
Now for the natural tensions between D and C styles on page 25.
This is the classic organizational tension: results versus accuracy.
D values speed and control to maximize impact.
C values compliance and correctness to minimize risk.
The point of tension is their methodology.
The D moves quickly to act. They see the C as overly deliberate, slow, caught in analysis paralysis.
And the C slows down to assess risk and verify every single detail. They see the D as reckless, impulsive, and prone to costly mistakes.
In communication, the D is direct and blunt, focused only on the outcome.
While the C is formal, guarded, and focused on the process flow, the D may see the C as cold and overly critical.
And the C may see the D as abrasive or dismissive of the necessary rules.
The resolution here requires the D to pause for input.
Specifically asking, what are the three major risks here? The D has to clearly explain the rationale behind their high-speed decisions.
Crucially, the C must develop flexibility.
They have to trust their D partner's ability to act, even if the plan isn't perfectly verified. They have to accept that not all decisions can be data perfect.
So when stress hits, D should invite detailed feedback.
And C should offer verified solutions, not just identify problems.
And our final tension on page 26, D and I styles.
Right, the two fast-paced, high-energy styles. They share speed, but their priorities fundamentally diverge.
D wants efficiency and results.
I want experience and emotional engagement.
The point of tension is the focus of the relationship itself. D wants to conquer the world efficiently.
And I want to experience the world enthusiastically.
So D may see I as scattered, verbose, or distracting from the goal.
And I may see D as too intense, cold, or ignoring the value of relationships.
In personal life, this looks like the D dictating the schedule. We need to complete these 5 chores before 10 a.m.
While the I wants to spontaneously stop mid-chore to socialize with the neighbor or discuss a brilliant new and completely unrelated idea.
Communication is the battleground here.
D is brief and commanding. I is expressive and storytelling.
If unchecked, D might bulldoze the conversation, shutting down I's creativity.
While I might distract or overcompensate with excessive enthusiasm when D is demanding clarity.
The insight and resolution emphasizes mutual respect for priorities.
The D should appreciate the I's enthusiasm and engage socially first before diving into tasks. Maybe even allow for spontaneous social breaks.
And the I must respect the D's need for closure and practice being concise when discussing critical tasks, respecting their time.
The I also has to learn to accept feedback from D without deflection, while the D must temper their critique with empathy, validating the I's relational contribution.
Wow. That detailed journey through pages 12 to 26 provides you, the listener, with the full blueprint of relational readiness.
It does. We've defined your core styles, calculated your energetic cost of conformity, established the wisdom of the Platinum Rule, and, most importantly,
we've given you a roadmap for managing the 6 most common and challenging inner style conflicts.
The fundamental goal of this assessment, and ever deep dive, is clarity.
The foundation of emotional compatibility rests on understanding your natural style, the one that appears under pressure, and then proactively choosing to adapt your behavior.
Growth means adapting behavior, but never changing your core personality.
And this is the high-stakes, proactive work being championed by Dr. Atul B. Patil and the dedicated team at IKSC Knowledge Bridge, Swayamyog.
They are providing candidates, like you, with the foundational tools for self-discovery needed to move past just hope and into a strategic, lasting partnership.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. Building on these concepts of natural style and adaptability. If adaptability requires conscious choice, and your natural style is what surfaces when you are truly stressed, how often do you unconsciously default back to that stress behavior when true, deep conflict arises in your future marriage?
And knowing this, how might pre-planning your adaptive strategies like deliberately decreasing your directness or intentionally increasing your openness change not just the immediate outcome, but the long-term resilience of that tension?
The blueprint is yours.
The construction is up to you.
You've really committed to one of the deepest dives possible, the preparation for marriage, but armed with data. We're taking the complex behavioral analysis from your personalized report, the Relationship Readiness Index, and we're going to try and turn it into clear, actionable knowledge.
That's absolutely right. And this isn't just about, understanding your personality in a vague sense. It's about engineering a successful, resilient partnership.
Right.
And today, we are laser focused on pages 27 through 36 of your report. This is all based on the Day Styles Behavioral Blueprint.
And this is where it gets really good.
It is. This is where self-awareness, it graduates from just a description of traits to a functional blueprint for finding genuine compatibility.
So our mission here is really to guide you, the listener, through this core segment. This report, it's been created through the dedicated efforts of IKSC Knowledge Bridge, Swayamyog, and of course the expert assessments conducted by specialists like Dr. Atul B. Patil. And that effort is so important. It's designed to reveal the behavioral, what would you call it? The delivery system of your emotions and your decisions.
That's a great way to put it.
We want you to understand not just what you do, but why you do it, and critically, what kind of partner will complement that reality.
Before we really plunge into the page by page, let's just quickly set the stage with fundamentals, the behavioral fundamentals.
So a quick recap.
A quick recap. Remember the 4 core DISC factors. We have D for dominance, which is how you assert control and, deal with challenges.
Okay.
I for influence, which is all about how openly and enthusiastically you engage with people.
The social side.
The social side. Then S for steadiness, your preference for pace, routine, and loyalty.
And finally, C.
And C for conscientiousness, your approach to accuracy, detail, and procedures.
And crucially, on top of all that, we have those 3 layers of self that apply to all those factors.
Yes, the 3 concepts.
The private concept, which is your core self, right?
Yeah.
The part that comes out when you're relaxed or maybe even stressed.
Your instinctive self. Then you have the adapted concept, which is your mask. These are the adjustments you make to meet relationship or social expectations.
And the last one is the public concept, the mirror. It's how other people actually perceive your behavior.
Exactly. And understanding the interplay, the friction between these 3 layers is, it's the prerequisite for everything we're about to discuss today.
So the transition from those foundational ideas to these next few pages, it's vital. We're moving towards identifying and hopefully mitigating friction.
We are. The report gives you the framework to address the most common, sometimes relationship-threatening issues head-on.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately. I want to start with section 1, where the analysis gets intensely practical. We're talking about the potential friction points, focusing on page 26, and the discussion frameworks.
Let's do it.
We're jumping straight into what the report calls the 24 top reasons for conflict in newlywed couples. This isn't just some common list you'd find online. It's an absolute compatibility checklist provided directly to you, and it demands discussion before disagreement.
And it could feel a little brutal, seeing it all laid out like that.
Yeah.
But it's so essential.
It's honest.
It's brutally honest. When you analyze the full list of 24, they really group into these big structural categories. And if you and your partner haven't aligned on these big ticket items, behavior, no matter how flexible you are, it will not save the relationship.
So let's start with what you're calling the non-negotiables. The core life vision conflicts.
Yes.
These are the points that fundamentally define the structural foundation of a shared life.
Absolutely. So think about the very first one, expectations from marriage. This isn't just vague feelings. This involves defining marital roles, defining emotional needs, and even the division of labor.
Okay, give me an example of that.
Well, if one person enters the marriage expecting their partner to manage all the household admin, all the bills, while they focus solely on their career, and the other person expects a complete 50-50 shared load on everything, that conflict is structural. It's a deep value clash, not just a simple communication hiccup.
And the big one, especially today, career ambitions and priorities. This is massive for modern couples.
Oh, it's huge. Whose career takes precedence? If a huge promotion comes up and it requires relocating across the country, how is that decided?
Who makes the sacrifice?
Who makes the sacrifice? It forces that uncomfortable but necessary conversation about shared long-term goals.
Ooh.
If you, the listener, are looking at your report and you see you're a naturally high D, you're highly driven, and your potential partner is also a high D.
Uh-oh, two leaders.
Two leaders. Who sacrifices the lead career? The report compels you to discuss this, and, of course, the foundational item of children.
Whether to have them, when, how many.
If you are not in absolute 100% alignment here, the emotional toll down the line will be immense.
And these conflicts, like long-term goals and dreams, retirement, travel, buying a house, they all demand alignment of these fundamental, almost philosophical values.
They really do.
Okay, so after the big picture stuff, we have the daily management conflicts. This is the stuff that grinds you down.
Yes. This is the relentless friction in the mundane, the little things that wear down patience and goodwill over time.
Like the classic enduring argument over money. Financial attitudes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just budgeting. It's about the emotional value you assign to money. Is money a tool for security, which is very common for CNS styles?
Or is it a tool for experience and freedom, more of an IND style?
Precisely. The spender versus the saver clash plays out every single day. Then we have household roles and responsibilities, which is often where that adapted self we talked about.
A mask.
The mask really starts to strain.
If you're naturally a high MA, you're spontaneous, maybe a little messy, easily distracted, but your partner expects meticulous cleaning. Adapting to that role every single day it's exhausting.
It's completely exhausting. And don't forget lifestyle and daily routines, differing internal clocks, the night owl versus the early bird, or different needs for cleanliness, or even dietary discipline.
Yeah.
These small things, they become symbols of disrespect if they're not clearly managed and talked about.
Okay, and the last category of conflicts here.
Interpersonal dynamics conflicts. These define your boundaries and your relational health.
So this is about how you interact with each other in the world.
It is. It covers communication styles. If one partner handles conflict by immediately needing to talk through the issue, that's a high I or high D trait, and the other needs 24 hours of quiet space to process analytically.
A high C.
A classic high C. That misalignment, the conflict about how to have a conflict, is incredibly destructive.
And then there's the whole world outside the relationship. We're talking in-laws and family involvement.
A massive areas of external pressure. Where do you draw the line? How often do you visit? Whose family gets priority for the holidays?
These are real fights people have.
All the time. And it connects to personal space and independence. How much solo time do you each need to recharge? A high I partner might see a high C partner's need for isolation as a form of rejection.
While the C partner feels like the I partner's constant need for togetherness is suffocating.
Exactly. The report forces clarity on these required boundaries.
But here's the key insight, I think. The report doesn't just list all these scary problems. It connects them directly to structured communication frameworks.
Yes.
You are literally given the script to move from arguing about the symptom, the messy kitchen, to understanding the root cause.
And this is the power behind the whole IKSC knowledge bridge philosophy. It's about productive self-disclosure built on clarity. The report introduces two types of structured questions to help you do this: WPD-based and DIC-based prompts.
Okay, let's focus on the WPD core values questions first. What does WPD stand for?
It stands for worldview perception drivers. And these are the deep, often subconscious philosophical beliefs that inform why you value stability or why you pursue wealth. They are the bedrock of your life philosophy, even more foundational than your behavior.
So this goes deeper than just DISC.
Much deeper. For example, the economic driver. It dictates the purpose of money for you. A WPD question might ask something like, when you consider wealth, do you define success as maximizing investment returns or as achieving the financial independence that grants you freedom to pursue non-monetary passions?
That's a much more interesting question than just, are you a saver?
Infinitely. It probes the philosophy of money management.
Okay, what about another one?
Let's take the political driver, which is all about control and influence.
Okay.
The question here is, in a high-pressure situation that requires a difficult joint decision, What process should we follow? And who should assume the final authority? This exposes that underlying need for control, your high D, or the need for consensus, your high S.
And I'm guessing there's one for rule followers.
Of course. The regulatory driver, the need for standards and structure. A WPD question here might be, when we're establishing household rules, do you prefer we rely on formal agreements, maybe even written systems, or should we operate on a more flexible, moment-to-moment emotional understanding?
Wow, that perfectly highlights the potential conflict between a C style and an I or S style.
It does. By using WPD, you ensure that you align on philosophy first, before you start arguing about the behavior that stems from it.
So once those core values are exposed, the report shifts to the practical side of things, the DIA-C behavioral questions.
Exactly. These are the questions designed to uncover the mechanism of your partner's style, how they operate day to day.
So for dominance, for the D, the question targets assertion.
Right. It might be, if I make a suggestion you strongly disagree with, do you prefer to confront the idea immediately, or do you want to hold your thoughts until a quieter moment?
For influence, the I, it's about relational energy.
Yes. So you'd ask, what specific gestures? Is it words? Is it gifts? Acts of service? What makes you feel most cherished and seen in this relationship?
It's basically mapping their love language to their behavioral style.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Okay, what about S steadiness?
S questions target pace and change. So a great question is, if we have a planned quiet weekend, and I suddenly propose a spontaneous trip, how does that shift in pace affect your emotional state and your sense of security?
That is essential for preventing resentment from an S-style person.
Absolutely. And for conscientious, for C, you'd ask, when we're facing uncertainty, do you rely more on emotional intuition, or do you need logical data analysis to feel comfortable making a decision? This makes sure you understand their primary sense-making tool.
So the overarching takeaway from this first section is really powerful. For you, the listener, you're literally handed the tools to transform potential landmines, money, family, sex, conflict, into respectful, productive self-disclosure.
You move from arguing about the symptom, like the mess in the living room, to discussing the underlying need, which might be a need for security that comes from order.
That structural framework leads us perfectly to the source of that behavior, the internal dynamics. We're transitioning now into Section 2, the internal tug-of-war. This covers pages 29 and 30, and it introduces the advanced 12 behavioral tendencies.
Yes, the ratio analysis.
We're moving past just what you are to how your different traits compete internally.
Exactly. This is really where the deep analysis begins. I mean, think about it. If you score highly on two competing factors, let's say you have a high D, a need for control, and also a high C, a need for accuracy. How do you decide which drive wins in a moment of stress?
Right. A traditional DISC profile might just say you're a DC.
Right, but that doesn't tell you which one takes the driver's seat. The 12-factor DISC ratio analysis compares these traits, D versus I, S versus C, and so on, to reveal your internal prioritization.
So the ratio is like the internal pecking order. If I'm a high D and a high I, does my need for command trump my need for charm, or is it the other way around?
Precisely. The ratio is the definitive answer. It establishes whether your leadership style is driven by authority or by influence.
And the report defines your internal compass and then places the result within one of 8 degrees, from very high to below low.
Which gives it predictive power. We can look at 6 of these critical pairings from page 29 to really understand this internal friction, starting with the leadership focus.
So we contrast the DI directive executor with the ID inspirational leader. What's the difference?
The directive executor, someone with a high D over I ratio, instinctively defaults to authority. In a relationship, they will prioritize efficiency and decisiveness over the need for consensus or, emotional bonding.
So they might just say, we need to fix this problem now, and here's the answer, without really pausing to build rapport or ask for input.
That's it, exactly. They lead with the what's. Conversely, the inspirational leader, with a high I over D ratio, leads through charm, persuasion, and enthusiasm. They lead with the why.
So they might spend half an hour enthusiastically selling their partner on the idea of cleaning the garage before they actually say, let's go clean the garage.
Yes. And in a conflict, they lead with empathy, sometimes delaying a hard decision just to maintain that emotional connection.
The insight here is vital then. If you're an inspirational leader and your partner is a directive executor, the executor might see your enthusiastic preamble as just stalling.
And you would see their immediate command as dismissive or cold. The ratio explains that difference in preferred communication speed and style.
Okay, next up, the pace and action focus. The DS, assertive initiator, versus the SD, cooperative stabilizer.
The assertive initiator, with a high D over S ratio, pushes hard for progress. They have a very low tolerance for patience or inertia.
So in a relationship, they're the ones constantly pushing for the next milestone, the next trip, the next home project, the next goal. They probably see rest as wasted time.
Very much so. But the cooperative stabilizer, high S over D, values harmony, consistency, and loyalty above all else. They are the anchor of the relationship.
So if the assertive initiator is constantly trying to disrupt the schedule or change the plans last minute.
The stabilizer views this as a direct attack on their security. The friction point is the entire pace of life. Progress versus patience.
Okay, now for what has to be a major source of marital tension: compliance and risk focus. The DC bold risk taker versus the CD measured controller.
This is the classic speed versus safety conflict. The bold risk taker, high D over C, operates on a better to ask forgiveness than permission philosophy.
I know a few of those.
We all do. They will make a major, swift decision like booking an extravagant vacation or making a risky investment based on the potential outcome. And I often ignore the detailed risks or the proper procedures.
And their partner, who's the measured controller, high C over D, views that speed as pure recklessness.
It's terrifying to them. For the controller, precision must precede power. They need the spreadsheet, they need the 3 quotes, they need the documented plan before they'll even consider acting.
So the insight here is this. The controller's greatest fear is making an error. The risk taker's greatest fear is inaction.
And the ratio defines which of those fears wins the internal battle for you.
Let's look at another one. People versus system focus. IS engaging promoter versus SI harmonious supporter.
The engaging promoter, high I over S, is the social engine. Their energy comes from expression, from excitement. In a partnership, they prioritize emotional connection and external visibility over quiet routine.
So they might be the one to easily interrupt their partner just to share an exciting idea because they value the engagement itself more than the stability of the conversation.
That's a great example. But the harmonious supporter, high S over I, is the quiet listener. They build loyalty and stability through measured, calm support. They listen far more than they speak.
So if the promoter is constantly filling the silence, the supporter might feel unheard, but they might not say anything because they value harmony above confrontation.
Which can lead to resentment over time.
Okay, next, the idea versus process focus. The IC unstructured influencer versus the CI discerning communicator. This sounds like the spontaneity versus logic showdown.
It is. The unstructured influencer, high I over C, is a pure brainstormer. Ideas flow freely, often without any rigorous vetting or proofreading. They value freedom of expression and spontaneity above all.
So they might view their partner's need for strict adherence to facts as just stifling their creativity.
Completely. And conversely, the C over I discerning communicator prioritizes logic, depth, and accuracy. They need conversations to be organized and factual. They're easily annoyed by what they perceive as loose, unverified assertions.
So in a relationship, they might be the one to stop a conversation just to fact-check something on their phone.
Yes, prioritizing correctness over charm or the emotional flow of the conversation.
Okay, and the last pairing here, flexibility versus policy. The SC adaptive companion versus the CS principled analyst.
The adaptive companion, high S over C, is highly attuned to the emotional atmosphere. They prioritize people-pleasing and flexibility just to maintain harmony. If a rule causes friction, they are very quick to bend it for the sake of emotional comfort.
But the principled analyst, high C over S, is systematic. They are driven by policy and integrity.
And when they're under pressure, they will favor the system over the person because they truly believe that the rules are the only way to ensure fairness and quality for everyone.
So their partner might see them as cold or rigid in that moment.
While they see themselves as simply being protectors of integrity.
So then page 30 compiles the actual scoring for all 12 of these ratios specifically for you. This reveals the specific degree, the intensity of your internal weighting.
And this specific scoring is your internal compass. If your report shows, say, a very high SD ratio, the cooperative stabilizer, you know that in almost all situations, your deep need for stability and harmony will override your impulse to take charge.
And that self-knowledge is invaluable for communicating your decision-making biases to a partner.
It is. It illuminates the hierarchy of your behavior. You move from wondering, why did I just choose patience over progress again, to realizing, oh, my internal system is wired to prioritize long-term stability in this situation. It's not a flaw, it's a feature.
Okay, so we've established the internal priorities. Now let's visualize the effort it takes to maintain them. We're moving to page 32, section 3. Visualizing your three selves using the DISC bar graphs. This is like the emotional stress test of your profile.
This visualization is absolutely crucial because it shows the cost of adaptation. The bars on this page plot your scores across D, I, S, and C for those three concepts we mentioned earlier: natural, adapted, and public.
Let's just look at those again. First, the natural private concept, your core self.
This is the real you. It's what emerges when you've had a terrible day, or when you are completely relaxed in a totally safe space. This is your instinctive style, shaped by your deep values and comfort zones.
Then you have the adapted projected concept. This is your mask.
Right. This is the behavioral adjustment you consciously make to meet the expectations of your environment, which, in the context of this report, means the expectations of a partner or a social setting.
And finally, the public concept, the mirror. This is how others actually perceive you, which is often a blend of your natural self and your adapted effort.
And sometimes, the mask is so successful that people mistake your adapted style for your core identity.
But the key takeaway here, and I think this is the most valuable insight from this page, is analyzing the adaptation gap.
Yes, the space between the bars.
Exactly. If your natural score for steadiness, for S, is very low meaning, you crave variety and constant change, but your adapted S score is very high.
You are actively suppressing your natural drive to meet an expectation of providing stability for a partner.
And what's the emotional cost of maintaining that huge gap?
It's fatigue. It's resentment. It's that feeling that you can never truly relax and be yourself in your own home. It is completely unsustainable long-term.
So you risk marrying someone based on a premise, your mask, that you cannot maintain indefinitely.
The marriage only works if your partner loves your natural self too, not just the version you present to them.
That's the real danger, isn't it? The longer you maintain a significant adaptation gap, the greater the internal pressure builds, and that leads to stress-induced behavior.
And when you are severely stressed, that adapted self just collapses, and the raw natural self takes over, often in an exaggerated, aggressive way because it's been suppressed for so long.
So this page helps you identify exactly where that pressure point lies for you.
It does. And to make this abstract visualization more memorable, the report assigns metaphorical animals to your natural, adapted, and public concepts.
Right.
So if your natural self is a high D lion, commanding and decisive, but your adapted self is a high S dove, supportive and patient, that animal change immediately signifies the emotional effort required.
You're using lion energy to present as a dove.
And that takes tremendous focus and energy every single day.
So by identifying that animal mismatch, you, the listener, you gain the power to communicate your core needs proactively. You can reduce the need to maintain that tiring mask.
Exactly. You can finally tell your partner, look, my adapted self is very patient, but my core self requires decisions to be made quickly. Let's find a compromise on pace that works for both of us.
We've seen the internal drives and the emotional effort required. Now let's move to the ultimate synthesis on page 33, the integrated behavioral diamond analysis. This is the central behavioral map showing all three of yourselves plotted on the DISC wheel.
This geometric visualization plots your behavior across two fundamental dimensions of human interaction: directness and openness. This allows us to see how you interact with the world and with people at a glance.
Let's just recap the structure of the diamond for everyone. The vertical axis runs from direct at the top to indirect at the bottom.
And the horizontal axis runs from guarded on the left to open on the right.
And this defines the four quadrants.
It does. Dominance D is located in the top left, the direct and guarded quadrant. These individuals are assertive, focused on tasks and challenges, and can appear emotionally contained.
Then influence I is in the top right, the direct and open quadrant.
Right. They are extroverted, expressive, focused on people, and enthusiastic.
Steadiness S is in the bottom right, the indirect and open quadrant.
These people are supportive, patient, they seek stability, and are relationship-focused but generally less assertive.
And finally, conscientiousness C is in the bottom left, the indirect and guarded quadrant.
Analytical, compliant, focused on procedures, and reserved.
The real power of the diamond, though, lies in the plot interpretation. Where the dots for your natural, adapted, and public selves actually land on this map, It tells a story of intensity and priority.
It really does. Plots that are closer to the edge mean more intensity. If your natural plot for D is slammed right against the corner of that quadrant, your need for challenge and control is likely non-negotiable. It dominates your personality.
So you'll probably react very aggressively when you feel like your control is being violated.
Almost certainly. On the other hand, plots that are closer to the center mean more moderate intensity.
Okay.
This suggests that your traits are more balanced and they blend together more easily. A moderate C plot means you value order, but you can be flexible. You can bend the rules for a spontaneous partner without entering a complete stress spiral.
A peripheral plot, however, indicates a real inflexibility in that area.
And this is a critical experiential insight. If your adapted plot for I is way out on the edge, you are expending massive effort to be social and charming for your partner, even if it's incredibly draining for you.
But if it's near the center, the adaptation is manageable. It's not costing you as much.
Exactly. The diamond visualizes exactly where your energy is being spent.
The scoring legend in the report also defines the relationship focus of each factor, which is helpful. D focuses on problems, so how you handle challenges.
I focuses on people, how you connect. S focuses on activity level, so how you manage pace. And C focuses on organization's rules details, your approach to accuracy.
So by analyzing the distance and the direction of the plots, especially your natural plot, you immediately understand your default reaction mechanism in a partnership.
Yes. If your natural plot is deep in the S quadrant, you instinctively handle conflict by seeking consensus and avoiding confrontation. You're prioritizing relationship peace or patience over a swift resolution of the problem.
And if your partner's natural plot is deep in the D quadrant, they're going to see your S-style conflict avoidance as stalling or maybe even as weakness.
They will. Understanding the gap between those plots on the behavioral map is the first step toward relational navigation. It shows you where your instinctive reactions will most likely cause friction.
We have spent a lot of time diagnosing you. Your internal tug-of-war, your emotional effort, your behavioral map. Now, in Section 5, covering pages 34 and 35, we answer the crucial question, who is the ideal complement? This is the benchmark for compatibility.
And this section holds up a behavioral mirror to your deepest relational needs. Page 34 focuses on your partner's expectations.
And these expectations are calculated based on your profile. It's not just what you say you want.
No, it's what your behavioral style suggests will maximize your comfort and minimize your adaptation stress.
So it's answering the question, what kind of energy and emotional presence will truly help me thrive? Which strengths balance my own tendencies so I don't have to carry the entire load of, say, organization or spontaneous fun or making tough decisions?
Precisely. If your natural C is very low, meaning you're pretty unstructured, the ideal partner benchmark C score will likely be high.
Because you subconsciously seek a methodical, detail-oriented person to provide the stability and structure you inherently lack.
Right. And the comparison graph on this page visually highlights this required complementarity. It compares your three concepts against the ideal partner's benchmark.
This visualization is so key. If your graphs overlap significantly on one factor, it suggests alignment is needed there. You need someone similar in that area.
But if their inverse is high for you, low for the partner, it suggests complementarity is required to fill a need.
So moving to page 35, the report defines your benchmark partner's character and style in, minute detail.
It does. Based on your specific scores and pattern, the report provides a concrete profile, and it often uses that second animal metaphor. So if you are the decisive lion, perhaps your ideal partner is the patient owl, defined by analytical thought and prudence.
And the detailed partner profile is like a behavioral dictionary for your ideal mate. It outlines their hypothetical, what is it? Emotions, goal, judges others by, influences others by, overuses, under pressure, fears, and value.
Yes, for their private, their natural style. And this granular detail is profoundly useful. For example, if the benchmark partner's character indicates their goal is precision and their core fear is personal criticism of their work, you immediately know that this ideal person is driven by quality, but is also highly sensitive to feedback. This dictates how you must communicate critique to them.
So you always focus on the system or the process, never the personal effort.
Exactly. And the style profile is equally important. It defines their primary strengths, ideal job culture, communication dose for others, and what they want for long-term motivation.
So if their communication does specify they need detailed information in writing before making a decision.
You know, the ideal way to influence them is through logic and preparation, even if your natural style is to be highly spontaneous and persuasive.
The key realization here is that you move beyond these vague concepts of niceness or chemistry to defined behavioral requirements.
It allows you to consciously seek out a partnership that is functionally compatible and mutually sustaining. It minimizes the energy required to maintain the relationship over decades.
Okay, we have arrived at the synthesis point, the most actionable section. Page 36, Partner Benchmark. Turning expectations into conversations. This is where all the self-awareness, the conflict zones, and the ideal benchmark all translate into practical dialogue.
This section is really built on the philosophy that self-awareness is the foundation, but application is the house.
I like that.
The report clarifies a crucial point here. Sometimes the test that creates this benchmark is completed from your point of view about what you need in a partner.
So the benchmark reflects your ideal expectation, which may or may not align with the reality of a prospective partner.
Exactly. And that's why we need the conversation starters. The goal is radical clarity, not judgment. These questions confirm, explore, or gently challenge the assumptions we hold about our partner, ensuring that both parties feel understood.
It's the mechanism for closing that expectation-reality gap.
That's it. The report generates numerous specific DISC conversation examples based on your style and the benchmark's required style. This targets the most likely friction points based on the two behavioral profiles.
Let's break down the nature of these questions for each style just to give you, the listener, some tools to start this meaningful dialogue immediately.
Good idea. For dominance, for D questions, the dialogue focuses on leadership and conflict. You move past, are you assertive, to something like, when we face a crisis, financial, family, or health, do you prefer to delegate tasks? Or do you need to maintain central control over the decision-making process?
And a really deep question might be, what does winning an argument mean to you? Is it resolution, or is it just getting your point across?
That's a great one. For influence, or I, questions delve into connection and social needs. Instead of just asking, are you social, you ask, in an average month, how many hours of group social interaction do you need to maintain your energy? And how can I best support that need without feeling excluded?
Or even, when you are angry, do you need space to calm down, or do you need to talk out the emotion immediately?
That's a classic I versus CS conflict right there.
What about S steadiness questions?
They target the comfort zone routine, stability, and pace. This often centers on managing the home environment. You might ask, to feel secure, what essential rhythms like mealtimes, weekend plans, or sleep schedules must we maintain? And how much notice do you need for a disruption to those rhythms?
You're essentially setting boundaries around change management.
You are. And for conscientious, for C questions, they focus on the need for accuracy, planning, and order. It's about transforming generalized neatness requirements into actual rules.
So for instance,
if we are starting a major joint project, how much time, as a percentage of the total time, should be dedicated to upfront planning, data collection, and organizing before we take the first step?
wow, that is specific.
Or related to conflict. When I present an emotional argument, do you prefer I focus on my feelings? Or would it be more helpful if I present the facts that led to those feelings?
This entire framework, championed by IKSC Knowledge Bridge, Swayam provides the mechanism to build that essential bridge from internal self-awareness to external partnership success.
It transforms potentially volatile topics into respectful negotiation.
And the report concludes with this powerful thematic statement that I think just summarizes this entire endeavor. The journey within, before the journey together. You must understand your own complex blueprint, your needs, your fears, your adaptations, before you can successfully merge it with another's. This data is merely the shortcut to deep introspection.
It's the map for the journey.
We have concluded our deep dive into the most advanced pages of your Relationship Readiness Index. We've moved from structural conflict zones and internal behavioral ratios to visualizations of your emotional effort and the concrete profile of your ideal partner benchmark. You now hold a powerful, detailed blueprint.
And ultimately, what this entire process emphasizes is not finding some perfect static match, but developing adaptability. It's the application of what's known as the platinum rule.
Right, not treating others how you want to be treated.
But treating them the way they need to be treated, based on their style.
So if your data shows you are a naturally high, you're spontaneous, expressive, but your benchmark partner is a high C, analytical, and reserved,
the conscious choice to pause your spontaneity and deliver information concisely and factually, that is the key growth area. That intentional adjustment based on the data defines the maturity of the partnership.
The report gives you the data on who you are and who you expect your partner to be. But the final provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. Based on your natural, your adapted, and your benchmark profiles, where is your single most difficult growth challenge going to be in this partnership?
Is it increasing your emotional patience? Is it accepting uncertainty and a bit of messiness? Is it learning to assertively confront issues you currently avoid? Or is it prioritizing clear, logical communication over your impulsive reactions?
That conscious choice of growth applied every single day is what defines the quality and the longevity of your partnership.
It's the real work.
That growth choice is the true deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of your relationship readiness index. We wish you success on your journey within, before the journey together.